mind that this is a direct manifestation of what we are going to be discussing today. So yes, with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. So please give a warm virtual welcome to Carolina. And Carolina, over to you.
Thank you so much for letting me talk in this meeting. I'm here in Caracas, and yes, we have a cut of electricity last night. It affected 7 states in the west of the country, plus Caracas and Miranda states. So luckily we have electricity now. Some areas still don't have it. But I wanted to divide my talk on 3 aspects, which are really important. First, well, to tell you a little bit about my reporting as an electoral observer. Then spend a big chunk of the time talking about this cyber attack and the whole attack against Venezuela that has gone on for a few months. And then maybe late, I will talk about the communal elections that I actually witnessed last week, which were really, really amazing and important to mention too. So the first, what I want to say about the electoral system, everybody seems to know a lot about it and not so much. Everybody's asking for tally sheets of actas, and actually the electoral system does not publish actas. They don't publish the tally sheets. It's the first thing that is being misrepresented. The tally sheets, I'll tell you what it is, but I'm gonna give you some ideas of how the system works, really. It's a 2-tier system. You vote, and your vote is electronic, but there's also a hard copy of that machine works. So obviously you got something that you call electoral districts, you name it, but this is the place where people are gonna vote, and this electoral council can be divided in 1 table, 2 tables, 3 tables, 7 tables. It's just to make the vote easy for everybody and not just have people queuing unnecessarily. So you go, and the first thing I found, which was amazing, was to find like about 10, between 7 and 10 people in each table. And why so many? Well, one is the president of the table. Another person is the operator of the little machine. Normally it's somebody who works for the National Council, Electoral National Council. And also 2 other people kind of checking you at the end of the process to make sure that you are who you are. On top of that, there are like between 3 and 7 witnesses according to the capacity of each party. But I would say that at least 3 witnesses were there. Maybe 1 for Maduro, for one of the parties that supported Maduro, and another one or 2 or 3 actually, because we need to remember there were 10 candidates here. And this is important, and that has been kind of erased from the whole narrative. It's not just Maduro and Edmundo. There were 8 more, and they have something to say, and they accepted the winner, the win of Maduro's win. The system is super safe. It has 16 audits before, during, and after. So you arrive to the table, you have to use your fingerprints to actually activate your vote that is going to appear in a monitor. So it's impossible really to replicate these fingerprints from somebody else. You just go, you need to show your ID, you need to look like you are the person who is holding the ID, you go and vote. The machine gives you the chance to vote for whoever you want and ask you, are you sure you're voting for this person? You say yes. The machine sends that electronic vote to the headquarters of the National Electoral Council, and then gives you a little copy or receipt where your name is not there, it's just the person you voted for. You put this little paper inside an urn that is going to be there for something, because as I said, it's a lot of audits happen. Before actually everything happens, everybody, the 10 people or 7 people in each table have to get together and print something which is called acta zero, or 0 act, or 0 tally sheets. And that act has to give 0 because the machine is in 0, and has to be signed by everybody that is present there. And you sign it basically by putting your signature on the screen of the machine. And that copy of that act has to make, the machine can do as many copies as it needed. If there are 7 witnesses, there will be 7 copies with +1 for the evidence that the CNA wants to have, the electoral council. So you vote, you put your vote, you put your little paper receipt in the urn, you go and again to another machine, another place where you have to sign, same as your ID, and you leave a hard copy of your fingerprints. And finally, you're gone. It's really quick, but very thorough. As I said, when this is the electoral system, the college or council, electoral councils opened at 6 in the morning, they should close at 6 in the afternoon unless there's people there. They basically close at 6 if there's no people, and they build the act or the tally sheets that everybody's going to be agree with. The machine basically produces like a receipt that you get when you go to the supermarket, where all the votes are, you know, just, separated, and you know who got how many votes. That paper has to be signed by everybody. It gives you a little QR code that has to have the name of the table, the name of the council, the electoral council, the area, etc., plus some information which is very specific to the machine, like what was the temperature in the machine. And that jumps in this long number, let's say, and also the speed inside the machine. So this information cannot be replicated, and you cannot make a copy of that. And obviously, remember that this copy, these tally sheets or acts, as if you want to call them, is in the hands of each of the witnesses. So if you try to tamper one, well, you got still 6 that will coincide, but not with yours. Anyway, it's impossible to tamper. But in the case that people want to say, well, it could be tampered, well, there's a problem because each of the witnesses from all those parties have gone home with that tally sheets, and they can actually go and make allegations later on, because this information by table will be published by the CNE, obviously, but by the National Electoral Council, and you can compare it. So these tally sheets normally that the witnesses have, the party witnesses go back to the parties, and it's kept there as another proof. But there is a copy that is put in these envelopes with a pen drive that has all the information from the voting machine, that has to be sealed and taken by military custody to the central office of the National Electoral Council. And it will be there for a few months, waiting for people maybe to complain, to say, well, I was a witness here, and this happened, and this is different. You know, it's for that reason. It's extremely safe system. There's no way you can really, you know, commit fraud, because even there's another extra thing which I found fascinating. The software of the central machine at the central office of the National Electoral Council has a password, but the password is divided among as many candidates as there are. So in this case, there's 10 pieces of that password that is encrypted. And if you don't put it together, the machine won't tell you, or the whole machine, the one that has all the totalization of the votes, won't tell you what is the result. And you can check the results in those machines. And it's the only way to do it is that the whole candidates, all 10 of them come together. Obviously, the national system is telling you the totalization of the votes, and that got delayed because of the cyber attack the National Electoral Council received. Now, this attack, and I want now to move into this cyber attack. And by the way, I saw people really happy voting and with no tension, not whatsoever. And I went and visited 5 polling stations. But the attack was, it's very interesting because the attack in Venezuela, somebody, and I'm just going to quote our ambassador in the United States, in the United Nations, it's a kind of concerted attack. He described it like somebody directing an orchestra, and every instrument will be playing their own part, but they will be directed by this, you know, conductor. And this is exactly how it happens in these cases. In Venezuela is not the only case that has been, the election system has been affected by the United States. It's a long history of this. Now, for the United States, it's very important to do this. And how do they do it? Well, obviously, they have always attacked our elections in Venezuela and always say that it was fraud, even though the numbers say the opposite. The opposition has always called fraud unless they win, which they did in 2015. They won the National Assembly, and they were very happy with that result. And also when we have governorship, local and regional elections, they have won. So at the moment, I think they have 4 governors out of 23, and they have 105 mayors, and I think it's 300 or something, I can't remember. But they do have power, and they're part of the government, and at least, obviously, they have people in the assembly, not the majority, but they do have people elected there. So the attack that went against Venezuela, I'm going to try to talk a few points from an amazing exposition that our ambassador at the United Nations did recently. And he's talking that everybody comes to try to attack Venezuela, but also to make the attack more respectable and more kind of objective. So at the moment, there's about 18 agencies that were working together against Venezuela. And we can name some of them: USAID, NED, CIA, Freedom House, and a lot, believe it or not, a lot of independent media that exists in Venezuela, and they work like NGOs that receive money directly from USAID. And USAID said, well, we're donating money to help with objective journalism in Venezuela. But you know that when the elections come and when things like this happen, they will all have the same narrative. What is scary is that the narrative is so similar and coming from so many sources that if you don't know much about Venezuela, the electoral system, and you're not here, you are, really, you will find it difficult to believe something different. So I think I have to refer to Elliot Abraham, who in July 2024 was already telling us what was going to happen in Venezuela. And you have to make sure, be clear that any narrative that comes against Venezuela or any country will always come from Washington. And it will trickle down Miami and all the media, obviously, that sometimes the United States supports or are friendly to the United States because they support a right-wing agenda, but always comes from Washington. And basically, he narrated what was going to happen. Maduro is not going to let the elections happen. Maduro is going to knock the internet, so that doesn't happen. Or Maduro is going to cause a blackout, so the transmission of the votes cannot happen. Obviously, they were going to do that, but they were already blaming Maduro for that. Luckily, the government stopped a couple of attacks, one in the Bolivar state, where my family is from, and another one from Táchira, which is a state near Colombia. The guys near Colombia were really scary. They have 3 cylinders that represented like 750 kilos of TNT, which is, dynamite, and they were planning to blow up a station that would have left 7 states with no electricity, especially the 7 states that actually vote Chavista. So I got 10 minutes, I got 5 more minutes to finish my exposition. So I wanted to say that it is a concerted attack. And the most interesting thing of all the stuff that our ambassador said with this investigation was that there is something that keeps happening, and all the media keeps saying, there is clear evidence that Maduro committed fraud. So you don't need to look at our electoral system, which is really, proof, really, really safe. But they have something called, I got the name here. It's called PTV, which is parallel vote tabulation. And then this is the source for all the media to say that is evidence that he committed fraud. And this is Alta Vista. It was an Alta Vista project that basically managed to get a website on the 27th. This is different from the website that the opposition, by the way, got and put these tally sheets, which are shown to be really, really, some of them completely fake. You use the RQ code and it takes you to a shoe shop in Caracas. So something like that, really bad. If you could go to the obviously, people outside Venezuela is not going to go and check that. But the Altavista parallel vote tabulation did a very quick check of the elections based on a kind of few cases. They divide, they have a system which is very efficient, and they said we need 1,500 acts or tally sheets from 7 segments of voting. It's very kind of statistically no faulty, etc. The thing is that they said that they needed 1,500, and they actually recorded just 997. And suddenly they did all what they do, magicians, and they determined that Maduro lost and just got 31% of the vote. Now that is really, I mean, seriously, I just saw 31 of the votes is like 2 million. I mean, this is a number of people I saw in the rally, closure rally here. That was here. It's impossible, you know. You're telling me that just the people who came to the rally voted. We know that's not true. And but this tabulation, this is where all the media is holding. And this is a document done by 4 professors, 2 from Michigan, 1 from Brazil, Pernambuco, and another one apparently from Venezuela, named Withheld, because poor guy, he's going to be attacked and taken to jail by Maduro. And they say basically that this is the result. And about 2,000 professors around the world have signed a document saying that Maduro committed fraud. So the attacks comes from this side, from the media that we know have just one narrative, from obviously, the only thing that is not working on this narrative is that Maria Corina Machado just go somebody together yesterday, and there were not 2,000 people in that. I walk from one side to another, in 2 minutes, 42 seconds. Everybody dispersed, not many people. I actually ended up being trapped with hundreds, I would say at least 100 of cameras behind me, and her truck in front of me. And then I filmed her a lot, and then I went out, and in less than 50 seconds, I was out of these kind of very tight people. And obviously, all the information that I saw today from that rally shows that she apparently have millions with her, just the way you post your camera, but it wasn't. And I was there, and there's some drone also pictures that you can see. So that is the only thing that is not working with the narrative. Not even, I mean, they're saying that the reason is because people are really afraid of coming out to protest, but the same thing happened in Miami, in Chile, in Spain. So it is something that is demonstrating that she is not a leader, and she's not really the main leader of the opposition. And she's in a really weak place, but she will carry on because she has the one thing that she said yesterday, which is true. She said, I have achieved the fact that everybody in the world is talking about Venezuela and holding our view. You know, people know about our truth. And I think this is true completely. Everything she says is, you know, sent by these people. And well, I can say a couple of things about the amazing elections that I went to last week. And it was just the people, grassroots movements, voting for a project that they really want in the community, where they were going to be involved in building it. And the government was going to give them the money directly to the commune, because each commune has a bank account and the money was going to be there. Everybody's going to watch that money. And the advantage of this system is not just that it's democracy from the bottom up. It's not just that, but it's also that the projects end up being very cheaply indeed. Let's say a water barrier in a town can cost up to $150,000 if a mayor does it. There was one done by one of the communities that just cost $15,000. People really talking if they need advice, they will get it. But the most important thing here is that people feel ownership from what they're building. And this is what the United States wants to destroy. They want to destroy a system that, despite the sanctions and the blockades and the financial blockade, is working for the people and got 6,400,000 people who voted for it, you know, and that is why the attack is so ferocious. Obviously, we have a lot of oil, gas, and everything that they also need desperately to continue with the, you know, industrial path and on all the industrial complex, but it's basically trying to destroy a system that is not perfect, but it's really democratic and where people have a voice. And I wanted to leave it up to here because I've just gone up over a minute.
Thank you so much, Carolina, for your really, really important perspective and contribution on the electoral process in Venezuela. It's so important to be hearing these firsthand accounts of people that are there, are part of this process, which is contrary to kind of the media portraying and trying to undermine these processes in Venezuela is an extremely advanced, transparent, and democratic process. So thank you so much for telling us about that and expanding on that for all of our people tuning in today. Just for the sake of time, we're just going to move on to our next speaker,